The film begins with a man named Joseph examining notes and research while listening to an old recording of his late grandfather, Dr. Benjamin Price. In the recording, Benjamin states that the legendary Necronomicon, known as the Book of the Dead, is real. He explains that the Circle of the Wise, a group of occultists of which he was part, found the book and, despite the warnings, read its profane passages. The recording explains that the book releases demons capable of possessing bodies, being so evil that it is as if the devil himself were present. While Joseph continues researching and searching through the documents, the recording continues. Benjamin reveals that they found an object of great power, capable of sending these creatures back to hell. He also says that he hid it behind runes and spells in case they returned, because, if the object is opened, the demons will feel its presence on Earth and nothing will be able to stop them from destroying it. Joseph finds the object, and the discovery attracts the demons. The story presents the friends Jared and Leo fishing in a lake. Emma, Leo's girlfriend, insists on calling him, but Jared asks him to enjoy that moment. Leo answers the call after docking the boat and moves away, while Jared continues fishing. Leo's rod begins to be pulled with force and ends up breaking. However, Jared does not notice anything because he remains focused on his own fishing and also hooks something. When he pulls, he is horrified to find a human head caught on the line. In shock, he calls for Leo, but several fishing lines trap him and pull him to the bottom. Leo returns and thinks Jared is joking until he sees him asking for help in the middle of the lake. He takes the boat to rescue him, but does not find him. Suddenly, Jared appears on the surface and Leo tries to save him. After pulling him out of the water, he discovers that he was brutally killed and had parts of his body torn off. Leo notices something watching him and tries to flee, but the boat's motor does not work. The entity flips the vessel and when it emerges on the surface, stares at Leo. Using its powers, it heats the water where he is, leaving him gravely wounded. Then, Leo manages to reach the shore, but he is very badly hurt. The entity passes by him and heads to an entrance where it finds a car. Without hesitation, it throws itself in front of the vehicle. Elsewhere, Joseph celebrates his birthday with his girlfriend Thea at his brother Will's restaurant, who is accompanied by his wife Alice. Alice wants to get more drinks, but Will tries to stop her, saying that she has already drunk too much. She insists that they can drink that night because it is Joseph's birthday. Thea interrupts the discussion and asks them to open the presents. Will gives Joseph a pen, leaving him uncomfortable. He explains that the object costs $1,000, but says that this is not the point. He says that he wanted to encourage his brother to write a book since he is on his 5th attempt. Alice comments that this was not very subtle, starting another argument with Will. She takes her own present and gives him a photo of her and Joseph together. Will becomes irritated because he did not know she would give something, since he considered the pen a gift from both of them. Joseph thanks her and, during a hug, almost kisses Alice, but Will and Thea notice the closeness between them and interrupt. After arguing again with Will, Alice steps away to smoke. Thea goes after her, while Joseph tries to calm his brother. Will complains that Alice wants to have children, but cannot give up her cigarette addiction. Meanwhile, Alice talks with Thea about her relationship. At that moment, Mike, an acquaintance of theirs, appears and asks for a cigarette. Then, Will and Joseph go out to talk, and Will asks Alice to come back inside. She refuses, and he says that he does not want to seem like a monster in front of his friends. Irritated, Will takes her cigarette, making Alice react angrily. He says that none of his ex-girlfriends ever made him so disturbed. Upset, Alice tells him to leave, and Joseph tries to stop him, but Will, drunk, gets into the car and leaves at high speed. While driving, Will ends up running over the entity and rolls the car down a slope. When he wakes up, he sees the woman's head trapped inside the vehicle and asks her not to move because he will get help. However, the creature begins to call his name. Frightened, Will realizes that she wants to be taken to his family. The creature's head detaches from the body, leaving Will terrified. Even without the body, the demon continues reciting words and makes the car catch fire, while watching his despair and laughing in a disturbing way. The next day, Alice meets Joseph and Thea at Will's funeral. Thea tries to calm her friend, who is still shaken. Alice notices a gun in the car and asks about it. So Thea explains that it belongs to Joseph, saying that he tries to look tough, bringing a brief smile to Alice's face. However, she becomes shaken again when she meets Susan, Will's mother, who hugs her in silence. When she tries to talk to Polly, Will's grandmother, she discovers that Polly does not remember her. During the funeral, Alice finds the dog Max, but Edgar, Will's father, does not like her and calls the animal. Joseph asks the person responsible for the cremation to finish the work on site, and she assures him that everything will be ready by noon. Susan gives an emotional speech, while Polly confuses her with Bonnie, being corrected by Joseph. When Alice is invited to speak about Will, she admits that she did not prepare anything, leaving the family uncomfortable. Afterward, Jake takes Will's body to the cremation. While he works, Edgar appears and asks to say goodbye to his son. Jake allows it for a few minutes, and Edgar is left alone with the body. When he hears knocks coming from the coffin, he believes that Will is alive and tries to free him, but he is attacked by the demon and has his body burned. Jake appears and is also killed by the creature, while Edgar ends up possessed without realizing it. Outside, Edgar, now possessed, hurries Susan so they can leave. Alice decides to stay with Joseph and Thea, who invite her to spend some time at the family house. She hesitates because she believes they do not like her, but Joseph reassures her, saying that his mother likes her, while joking that his father hates her. They arrive at the family's isolated house, in a wooded region. Joseph looks for his parents, but finds only Polly, who does not know where they are. Alice sees a photo of their wedding and becomes sad, while Joseph goes up to the attic in search of his mother. There, he finds Susan preparing a bed for Alice, but she shows discomfort with her presence. Susan questions why Joseph kept Benjamin's things, and he explains that he wanted to keep something of his grandfather's, because he considers his research fascinating. Upon hearing the recording about the demons, Susan asks if that really interests him. Joseph replies that he is looking for inspiration for his book, leaving his mother even more worried. He explains that the work will be about Benjamin's discoveries, believing that he was part of a secret society. However, Susan says that it was a cult and that her father was not a good person. She says that when her mother became ill, Benjamin distanced himself to stay with the circle of the wise. Then, she begins gathering his things, saying that she will not allow Joseph to write that book. Frightened, Susan says that this is how her Aunt Bonnie became ill, following the same obsessions as her father. She said she had found a weapon to protect them from evil, but Susan says that they avoided these ideas because they did not have the courage to face reality. Shaken, she reveals that she had to take care of the family alone, and Joseph apologizes for not knowing about the situation. He asks his mother to rest, but she refuses and asks him to tell the others that lunch will be served soon. Before leaving, she gives him Benjamin's things and asks him to get rid of them. Later, while taking the objects to the trash, Joseph hears his father. When he approaches, he finds Edgar irritated, trying to start a chainsaw. Joseph notices that it is out of gasoline and asks him to rest, but Edgar leaves furiously, saying that someone needs to take care of the house. In the basement, while putting in gasoline, he hears Will calling him, but finds only a rat caught in a trap. When he tries to leave, the doors close and the light burns out, leaving him frightened. Edgar takes a dagger to defend himself, while the demons whisper that they are inside him and ask to enter. Influenced by the voices, he begins to approach the knife to hurt himself. At that moment, Alice hears the noise and goes to check. She finds Edgar about to hurt himself, takes the dagger from his hands, and ends up suffering a small cut. Edgar asks her not to tell Susan anything, and Alice decides to keep the knife with her. Later, Alice goes to the kitchen to clean the wound and lies to Susan, saying that she slipped and broke the plates. Susan does not question it and only asks her to place the glasses on the table carefully. During dinner, they watch the video of Alice and Will's wedding. Susan becomes emotional and thanks Joseph for the tribute, while Edgar continues coughing. When Joseph tries to sit down, Edgar stops him, saying that that place belongs to Will. Upon hearing her grandson's name, Polly asks when she will see Will again, leaving Edgar irritated and making him grab a knife. Susan asks him to serve the wine, but Thea does it for him, while Alice moves the knife away. Everyone praises the food, and Alice comments that she would not know how to tell the difference from frozen food. Susan replies that this is worrying, because she would need to know these things if she were to manage the business. Joseph spills wine on the table and interrupts the discussion. Then, Susan asks about Alice's plans. She says that she does not intend to stay, and that she thinks about returning to Paris with her father. Susan says that she was already planning everything, and that these matters need to be resolved as a family. Edgar agrees with his wife, and Susan asks her to think better, saying that the staff likes her and that she should do it for Will. Polly recognizes Alice and asks if she is married to her grandson. Alice tries to ignore it, irritating Polly, but Susan calms the situation. Meanwhile, Edgar takes advantage of the distraction and grabs the wine opener. Susan continues insisting on the subject, but Alice says that it is not a good time. Edgar says that they need to resolve everything at that moment. Remembering the fights she had in that place, Alice becomes shaken and spills the wine. Susan asks her to calm down, but, irritated, Alice asks them to stop speaking on Will's behalf. Susan replies that she is his mother and that no one knew him better than she did. Joseph tries to help Alice, but Edgar becomes irritated and says that it is never the right moment for him, calling him a failure. Susan tries to calm him, but he asks her not to touch him while holding the opener. Thea defends her boyfriend and says that this is no reason to be cruel. Joseph says that everything is fine, but Edgar notices that Alice is without her wedding ring and accuses her of having sold the ring. Susan also begins to question her until Thea manages to take the opener from his hands. Still altered, Edgar complains that Alice did not even dress properly for the funeral and did not cry over Will's death. Alice replies that each person deals with grief in a different way. Then, Edgar becomes irritated with the dog and assaults it, leaving everyone frightened. Susan serves him food, but Edgar continues acting strangely and complaining about the dish. Joseph asks him to stop, but Edgar accuses him of having killed his brother by not stopping him. Joseph defends himself, saying that Will fought with Alice and left out of control. Alice believes that he is trying to blame her and starts an argument. Increasingly altered, Edgar says that she is happy about Will's death. Susan tries to calm him, saying that their son is in heaven, but Edgar says that he is in hell. Taken by rage, Edgar attacks the dog until killed. Joseph tries to stop him, but is hit in the head with a bottle of wine. Edgar falls and hits his head on the floor, then begins asking for help. Not understanding what happened to him, they decide to take him to the hospital. On the way, Thea becomes frightened and says that Edgar is completely insane. Joseph asks her to calm down while trying to contain his father's bleeding. Suddenly, she notices that Edgar is rising in the back seat and warns her boyfriend. Joseph notices that his father is acting strangely and becomes frightened. Edgar takes the scissors from Joseph's hands and begins attacking Thea violently. Joseph tries to stop him, but cannot. During the fight, Thea loses control of the vehicle and they go off the road, while Edgar removes the keys and attacks her again. Joseph manages to restrain him with the seatbelt and tries to suffocate him, but his father, with supernatural strength, manages to free himself. The creature prevents Thea's escape, and she ends up trapping and losing her fingers in the car door. While she screams in pain, Joseph tries to help her, but is also attacked. After breaking free, Edgar tries to suffocate Thea with the belt. Joseph, with no options, grabs his gun, but hesitates to shoot, even with her pleas. The demon approaches and challenges Joseph to fire. Taking advantage of the distraction, Thea hits Edgar in the head with a fire extinguisher, releasing the contents inside the vehicle. Joseph enters a new fight against his father, but ends up dominated again. Edgar picks up an object from the seat and prepares to kill Thea. Joseph gets out of the car terrified while she asks for help, but she ends up being brutally killed. Joseph flees in shock, while the demon watches. At the same time, Alice and Susan bury the dog in the yard. Alice goes to the shed to put away the shovel and ends up finding Benjamin's records that Joseph forgot. When she reads the diary, she discovers information about the Book of the Dead and a dagger created by the Circle of the Wise, capable of sending the demons back to hell. According to the writings, even a small cut from the blade is capable of ripping their demonic souls from the bodies. She also discovers that Benjamin hid the dagger and fled to protect the family because he was being pursued. Without realizing the danger, Alice recites 3 of the 4 forbidden words. With each word spoken, something quickly approaches the place. About to say the last one, she gives up because she does not believe it. At that instant, the family dog reappears possessed and tries to attack her, but Alice manages to defend herself and kills it again. Susan finishes organizing the house and finds Alice completely frightened. Alice says that the family dog tried to attack her, but Susan does not understand what she means. At that moment, Joseph returns in shock and reveals that Edgar killed Thaya. Soon after, someone knocks at the door, leaving everyone on alert. When they open it, they find Thaya gravely wounded and with different eyes. She mocks Susan's perfect family before attacking her. Joseph and Alice manage to pull Thaya off Susan and trap her in the basement. The demon tries to manipulate Joseph, pretending to be Thaya, but Alice notices the deception and locks the door. They try to flee the house, but find Edgar waiting outside. Susan tries to go to her husband, but Joseph stops her. He quickly calls the dog and draws Joseph's gun, pointing it at them. Then, he shifts the aim to his own head. Before pulling the trigger, the demon says that Joseph is the one who should have died instead of Will. They believe the creature died, but soon realize that it continues using Edgar's body to feed the family's suffering. The 3 lock themselves inside the house and leave Polly alone in the living room. Thaya manages to open a hole in the basement door and tries to convince Polly to free her. The elderly woman asks if she will return the money she stole, and not understanding the confusion, the demon agrees. Shortly afterward, Joseph, Alice, and Susan hear a noise and find Polly fallen on the floor. Following a trail of fluid, they find Thaya spreading gasoline over the photos of Will and Alice. Joseph prepares to face her, while Susan and Alice try to climb the stairs. Joseph grabs a lamp to defend himself, but the demon disappears. While they look for it, a red liquid begins to fall on Alice. When she looks up, she sees the creature on the ceiling, which accuses her of wanting to be with all the men in the family before attacking her. Alice asks for help, but the demon says that Joseph is a coward. Then, the creature tells Susan to stop protecting her son, saying that he has something they are looking for. Soon after, it throws Susan against the wall and returns to attack Joseph, demanding what they came to seek. Meanwhile, Polly goes upstairs alone, saying that she always knew Thaya was a thief. Joseph hides in the kitchen, grabs a chainsaw, and tries to face the demon. The creature mocks him, knocks him down onto some cutlery, and presses him against it. When Joseph is about to die, he manages to pierce Thaya's neck with the saw. She mocks him for not having shot his own father, but having the courage to kill her. Before continuing the attack, the demon hears Polly saying that she has what they are looking for and goes upstairs after her. The elderly woman says that the money is under the bed and asks to be left alone. Upon realizing that Polly is confused, the creature decides to use her to discover where Benjamin hid the dagger. She notices that the elderly woman does not have one leg and asks what happened. At that moment, Alice appears by surprise and pushes her down the stairs. Joseph takes the opportunity to hit her with an object, but the demon says that Benjamin and the Circle of the Wise failed, just as they will also fail and die. Terrified, Joseph brutally finishes the creature while Alice witnesses everything. Upon noticing her look, he begins to cry, while Alice remembers the fights with Will and the promise that he would come back for her. During the night, the two remain trapped in the house. Joseph notices a scar on Alice's ribs, but before he can ask, she questions him about the Circle of the Wise. He tries to deny it, but she reveals that she heard part of the recording and demands the truth. Joseph asks if Will ever mentioned Benjamin to her and explains that when they were children, they were forbidden to see him because the family said he was unstable. According to his grandfather, the devil had already been in that place and would return if someone read the Book of the Dead again. Joseph says that Benjamin traveled the world in search of artifacts to protect them, and reveals that there are still some of his things in the attic. He also remembers that the demon mentioned something they had that could stop it. At the same time, Susan tries to make Polly sleep, but the elderly woman is afraid and asks her to check if there are monsters under the bed. Susan looks and says that there is nothing, but Polly gets up covered by the sheet. Happy to be called by name again, Susan hugs the person she believes to be her mother. The demon offers a deal, promising to bring back her family and saying that Will is also on his way. Susan removes the sheet and sees the creature's grotesque face. When she looks through the window, she finds Edgar trying to enter the house. Manipulated, she opens the window and kisses the demon, ending up possessed as well. Meanwhile, Alice realizes that Edgar is no longer standing still, and the dog suddenly appears, frightening them. Susan comes down the stairs and approaches Joseph, saying that they are not enemies and that they only want something Benjamin took. She asks about the dagger, but Joseph says that he threw everything away as she asked. When he notices that his mother speaks in the plural, he becomes suspicious. The demon demands the Kandarian dagger and turns off the lights, attacking Joseph and leaving Alice unconscious. Susan questions why he hurt the son, but is also knocked down by the creature. The demon demands to know where the dagger is, but Joseph says that he does not know. Using the pen Will gave him, he tries to face it. Alice wakes up during the fight and tries to flee, ignoring the calls for help. Hidden in another room, she sees Joseph being thrown against the door and, before being taken away, he asks her to find the dagger. Alice grabs a lawnmower and heads upstairs. On the way, she becomes emotional upon seeing a portrait of her with Will, without noticing Polly behind her. The demon attacks Alice and throws her against the lawnmower, demanding to know where the dagger is. She tries to grab the pen to defend herself, but the creature grabs it first and begins piercing her ear while demanding answers. Alice asks Susan for help, but the demon manipulates her, saying that all the family's problems are her fault. When she is about to turn on the mower, Alice uses a piece of glass to pierce Polly and traps her in the chair, which begins to be dragged downward. Susan feels relieved, and Alice tries to remove the pen from her ear, but it ends up breaking. Furious, she grabs Edgar's dagger to take revenge, while Polly tries to free herself by tearing off her own leg. Suddenly, someone falls from the ceiling, frightening the two. Susan thinks it is Joseph, but Alice realizes that it is Edgar, who fell along with his son, and prepares to attack them. Alice grabs the mower and takes Susan with her, managing to lock herself in the bathroom before they are reached. In the place, Alice ties Susan's hands, who questions her attitude. Alice says that she should thank her for having saved her, but Susan says that she destroyed her family. While removing the rest of the pen with tweezers, Alice tells Susan to shut up and says that her family was already destroyed. She shows the scar and reveals that Will was a monster, saying that Susan knew that and deserved everything that was happening. Alice uses the mower to open a hole in the ceiling, while Susan presses her face against the heater and begins to burn herself. She admits that Alice is right, but says that her son will return to destroy her. Her voice changes and her eyes turn yellow, like those of the Legion. Then, she knocks Alice down and frees herself from the restraints. The two engage in a physical fight, and Susan places a bag over Alice's head and drags her along the wall to the ceiling, trying to suffocate her. Alice manages to grab a blade and cut Susan, freeing herself. Then, she reaches the lawnmower and uses it against Susan, leaving her almost dead. Alice then escapes through the hole in the ceiling and reaches the attic. Alice begins looking for the protective artifacts and finds a pile of knives while searching for the dagger. Joseph begins to climb the place, frightening her, while the entity continues mocking her. Alice finds a different dagger and decides to use it, but the demon mocks her, saying that this is not the right weapon. Desperate, she tests several daggers while it says that she will die alone in the attic. Suddenly, Alice pierces the demon with one of the blades and realizes that she has finally found the Kandarian dagger. While observing the body on the floor, Alice notices someone pulling the ladder. Susan appears through the hole and chases her, leaving her terrified. When trying to escape through the small window, Alice almost falls from the roof and drops the Kandarian dagger. The demons appear on the ceiling, forcing her to escape through the chimney. Alice uses the lawnmower to descend through the chimney, while Susan continues behind her. She turns on the machine and kills Susan, but Edgar appears to attack her. The demon tries to talk about her family, but Alice says that she is tired of that family and cuts him with the lawnmower. Then, she sets the house on fire and kills the dog that tries to attack her. While recovering, Alice hears Will's voice and sees him before the burning house. He says that he should have killed her when he had the chance, and remembers the promise they made in that place. Alice tells him to go back to hell and flees. She reaches a construction site and tries to ask for help over a radio, but the demon answers through the transmission. Soon after, it attacks her and throws her into a hole, trapping her leg in a beam. The creature pours hot oil into the place, but Alice manages to free herself. Will appears demanding the dagger, but Alice deceives him with a fake dagger and uses a drill against him. His weakened body falls into the hot oil, but returns and pierces her leg. Alice reaches the Kandarian dagger and finally defeats him. After collapsing exhausted, Alice is found by the police and taken to receive care. She asks the nurse for a cigarette and, when asked who did that to her, reveals that it was her ex-husband. Then, she returns to her old habit of smoking. However, Polly is still alive and crawls behind her. A young woman stops to help her, but the demon takes the opportunity to possess her, beginning a new revenge.